extraordinary scenes in the House of Commons yesterday as Extinction Rebellion protesters glued themselves around the Speaker's chair. The cunning protesters snuck away from a guided tour of Parliament where they initiated the protests and read out a speech demanding a citizens' assembly on issues surrounding climate change. Now, how on earth was this all allowed to happen? Joining me now to discuss this is security expert Will Geddes. Will, so how on earth was this allowed to happen? I just said what they did, detailed their actions. Surely someone could have clocked this.
Well, one would have hoped. Emily, thank you for inviting me on the show today. Yes, I mean, it's one of those difficult ones. The Houses of Parliament and the Houses of Commons have both had issues where individuals who've either protested or even terrorists, for that matter, have tried to breach, obviously, the secure perimeters of that palace of Westminster, if you like. But where the challenge is that the police, for example, will patrol and secure the exterior parts because being servants of the monarch isn't allowed to enter the Houses of Parliament, and nor are the police. So the security within the actual Houses of Commons are protected by what they call the 37 doorkeepers. These are 37 individuals that are responsible for the physical security controls. Now, as you rightly say, what we've seen with Extinction Rebellion is they managed to draw away from a tour, of which there are many, many tours every week, which are available for the general public. But it raises some serious question marks as to what they're doing, because we have seen these breaches before. And are they really on top of their security procedures? Particularly the fact that, OK, they might be able to sneak in with a small tube of super glue to glue themselves, obviously, to the furniture. But some of them had placards within the House of Commons by the Speaker's chair. How were they able to bring those in?
Yeah, and it's also bizarre as well, not just how they managed to get in, but also they were able to put up a massive banner in the main area outside the House of Lords in that courtyard. How on earth did they get away with that? And how was it there for so long? I walked past myself and it seemed like nothing at all was being done.
Well, again, the police are always going to be very careful in how they deal with particularly proactive demonstrators like Extinction Rebellion. However, certainly there is Part 69 of the Public Disorder Act and Criminal Justice Law, which does actually address trespassers in a particular fashion. And in Extinction Rebellion, all of those protesters were arrested. Now, whether they've been charged or not, we'll find out in due course. But the police are careful because many of these protesters will have individuals dotted around in various places recording their actions. Now, whether that be through smartphones or whether it be through professional cameras, the police can't be seen to be heavy-handed. So they will assess it carefully, and particularly when there are individuals, as there were on this particular protest, that went up scaffolding and on the side of the building, you can't simply just, as I probably would like, Emily, and you know me well enough, I'd probably just pull them off the actual scaffolding. The police have to obviously have a duty of care when they do so.
Well, I mean, I think most people sitting at home would be rather bemused that the police aren't allowed to just take them down. It does seem that on the continent, the police forces are a little bit more heavy-handed when it comes to such things. Now, I was saying in my monologue at the start of the show that I think there's going to be a rise in the number of these types of protests. We've seen Just Stop Oil blockading petrol stations and other oil and gas companies making a nuisance with their the way that their oil and gas is being moved around the country and so on. I think that Extinction Rebellion are going to kick off because Liz Truss is, of course, given the green light to fracking if she becomes Prime Minister. What can the police force do to prepare for such things?
Well, I think they need to be a little bit more heavy-handed. I mean, my personal view on it, in certain parts of the world where I've operated, they probably shoot them off the scaffolding.
OK, we don't want that, Will. That's a bit too far. No. That's a bit too far.
I'm not saying that we resort to that, Emily, by any means. But what I would say is that, yes, I think when these individuals are removed from heights or removed from various locations or unbonded when they've stuck themselves to various pieces of furniture or parts of the building, that it needs to be done very cautiously. But these individuals need to be charged accordingly. And I think there should be custodial sentences. Now, that's not to say that we're going to stop them entirely from doing it, but there will be many do-gooders, if you want to call them that align themselves to these groups and participate in these protests. It might dissuade them thinking, well, you know what, I may come from Middle England and I've come down for a bit of a protest. Well, I could end up being incarcerated, having a criminal record, and that will obviously blemish my future, my career, and many other reputational aspects for me in the future. The Stop Oil people are a slightly more troglodyte version of Extinction Rebellion, if you can call them that. And certainly those individuals have been involved in very specific, as you say, on the forecourts, the very specific criminal damage. Criminal damage is criminal damage. And I think, the courts cannot be light on the sentencing for these individuals. Pack them away. And if they're complaining that they're protesting for the benefit of us all, well, maybe highlight your causes, and you might actually have some of us join your causes through slightly more pragmatic and sensible protest, rather than things which is just going to cause chaos, cause us taxpayer money to police and to protect against.